Hello, everyone. Well, I have my work cut out today because, as you might remember if you've been watching, we lost our polytunnel cover. We replaced it, and then we had the massive storm Eowyn, which took it off again, and hence the little greenhouse thing I had here, all blown away outside. And after 2 years of neglect, because we didn't have a cover, this whole place is full of weeds. So we have dock, dandelion, nettles, there's some fumitory there, there's cleavers, there's horrible bindweed. It's the one weed that I really detest. Everything else is beneficial and they coexist, but bindweed just loves to strangle things. What else have we got? Horsetail. The invasion of the horsetail, it's worse than the day of the Triffids. And we prepared this bed here a couple of weeks ago, ready to put in some tomatoes and cucumbers, because we're intending to work, a bit at a time, take this bed out and put in maybe 3 more narrow beds, because I can't really reach into the middle of this. And this, we spent hours taking out all the scutch grass, and it was ready. All we had to do was come back from our holiday, pop in the plants. But in that couple of weeks with the heat, the horsetail has erupted. So all of this horsetail, and what is it good for? Well, I've done a couple of other films about horsetail. It is good for several things, actually. In fact, it can be extremely beneficial to our health. So you may know that horsetail is one of the most ancient plants on the planet. It used to be, I don't know, hundreds of feet tall in a primordial forest, and this is how it's ended up. So this horsetail has already fruited and it changes into this shape. When it first appears, it's more brown and it has a kind of little cap on the top. And the cap opens up and all the spores go everywhere. And then you end up with these new plants. So I've got to get them all out before I can put in tomatoes and cucumbers. But there's no point just throwing it all away because it is so beneficial. It's beneficial for both men and women because if you're a woman suffering with something like cystitis or a constant urge to urinate, because of the astringency of this plant, it was going to tone up the urinary system. It has an affinity for the urinary system, actually. So it's going to tone up and prevent problems like continued rushing to the loo and worrying if you're going to, you have to plan when you go out where the toilet is. This can be very helpful. So it's also going to help children who are bedwetting because it's toning up the whole urinary system. And then again, for men who might have prostate problems, horsetail is something that will really help with that urge incontinence and with incontinence. So it's really good for the urinary system. It's full of silica, so it also helps women because the presence of silica means that we can uptake more calcium. So it's good for our bones. It's also good for hair, skin, and nails. So if you were to have this in your formula, as a menopausal woman, for example, or a woman going through the menopause who is experiencing heavy bleeding, it's also going to remedy the heavy bleeding. And then it's going to leave you with strong bones ready to march on into the third stage of life and be able to do whatever you want to do. So apart from the silica content, horsetail also contains a lot of minerals, potassium and magnesium and manganese. So the potassium is helpful because it's mildly diuretic. So if you need to pee, it's going to help with that. If you need to lose the excess water, it's going to help with that. It's also good for hemorrhage. If you have, say, if you're a woman with very heavy bleeding, horsetail can benefit the hemorrhaging and alleviate it because the silica, again, is a brilliant wound healer. So as a vulnerary herb, that means it stops bleeding. So I've just mentioned, uterine bleeding, hemorrhaging that women might experience, but it's also good for external wounds. And it was a favorite on battlefields, certainly in the 16th and 17th centuries when it would have been very widely applied because it will staunch wounds. So fortunately, it's very prolific in a lot of places. And you can use it as well if you're out hiking or you're out in the garden and you have an injury. I mean, there's many, many green plants who will work to stop bleeding, but the silica content in horsetail makes this a primary one. I love the idea that it's so ancient. It's been here since before probably the dinosaurs, before everything. It is so ancient and it's still here. And, apart from all the health benefits, over the centuries, it's been used for various other purposes as well. It's got common names such as shade grass and, what's the other one? It used to be used to clean pots. So it'd be a pot cleaner because it's so abrasive. It's brittle. The silica content, it's very brittle. So you can scrub pewter pots. It used to be used to clean. So you can still use it for that purpose today if you wanted to. But what I love about it is the fact that you can make a very strong decoction with it and spray your potatoes because it prevents blight. And so if you can spray the potatoes with it, you could also spray your tomatoes because they're all in the same family. And if it prevents blight on potatoes, it's probably going to do the same for your tomatoes as well. So that's another good reason why it's helpful to have it around. I'm not going to worry about this bed today because it's here, but I'll just have to leave it, otherwise I'm overwhelmed. So I'm just going to focus on this bed. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull it all out, put down a lot of sheep's wool, top it off with some soil that we've already removed from here when we were tidying up, bring it back in, top that off with a lovely bit of compost, and then I can put my plants in. But if you are thinking to yourself, I've got one of those issues that she mentioned, and I forgot to say it's also very toning for the kidneys. So its affinity for the urinary system includes the kidneys and the bladder and the reins, as Culpeper used to describe the urethra and everything. It was used in the past for TB. It stops the bleeding in the lungs. So if you have a severe heavy cough, it can rebuild because of the silica again, it's going to rebuild all the little alveoli and tone them up and make them more efficient for breathing. So it's helpful for people with respiratory problems such as asthma and also the digestive system. If you have a problem, for example, with soft, flaccid muscles in the digestive system, possibly a lot of inflammation and ulceration. Again, horsetail is going to be very beneficial because of its astringency and because it can tone up and make those membranes, wake up a bit and perk up a little bit. But the thing is, you must remember, and this is really important, because it is so astringent and it is a hard medicine, you have to include something soft and soothing like marshmallow because you don't want to go too far with horsetail. And you would only use it for a temporary short period of time as well. And so the way to make your medicine is to either tincture it or to decoct it, which means you literally simmer it, bring it to the boil, simmer it, and that's how you make your cup of tea. You decoct it. So if you just infuse it, it's not going to really do anything because the cell walls are so hard. So give it a bit of a pounding before you decoct it and before you tincture it, just to open it up. There's also saponins in this plant, and saponins tell us that it's very cleansing because it's soap. So it's going to cleanse all the systems that you apply it to as well. Anyway, I love it. I do love it, but I just don't want this much in here. So I'm going to get on with this now, and you know, I better get started because there is a lot to do, as you can see. And if you're interested, if you're interested in using the horsetail that you have in your garden, remember, because of the silica content, it helps the body take up calcium, and that is good for your hair, skin and nails, for your teeth, for your bones. And if you're interested in making a toothpaste or a mouthwash, I've got a video from the past that you can go back and look at. Right, I better go and get a tub for all the weeds. I don't want to just throw it around. And then I can make a nice decoction later. Right, back to the polytunnel. But I just want to show you this plantain that's growing here. Isn't that a gorgeous one? And I'll be talking about plantain on Susan Weed's Linden conference in about 2 weeks' time. So I'm looking forward to that. But now back to work. Now, so I've cleared all the horsetail out of there, and I had to dig it over in the end because hoeing it just wasn't going to do it because of the roots. I don't usually like to dig, but I feel that it has aerated the soil a bit, and I've patted it all down again now. So I'm just going to make a layer of sheep's wool very finely on the top of that, and then I'll cover it with compost, water it, let it rest for a day or so, and then I'll plant in my tomatoes and cucumbers. So one row is done, and all this to do. More horsetail to deal with, but that's what you have to do. So I've put the bit of compost on, I've dotted my pots. I'm not going to actually plant them until Monday or Sunday evening or Monday, because it's Easter weekend, and in biodynamics you do nothing at all during Easter. So I'm just going to, follow it for now and see if it makes that much of a difference. And so I'll follow it as instructed. These can sit here and get used to their new home, and I will let you know how it all gets on next week. So wishing you a very happy, peaceful Easter, and I hope everybody has wonderful weather and a happy holiday. So see you next week. Take care. I hope you enjoyed today's film. If you did, subscribe and hit the bell for notifications. And have a look at the website danusirishherbgarden.com for more information about us and about the herbal medicine courses I offer and the Wise Woman Way training. And if you go to the shop, you can find the books, the weed handbooks and other herbal goodies. And remember, we put a new film out every Sunday. So looking forward to seeing you next week.